33-year-old Sandy Drummond, born Alexandra Drummond, lived in the quaint Scottish hamlet of Boar Hills. Located in Fife, Boar Hills lies 50 miles away from Edinburgh and only a short distance from Scotland's east coast. Sandy was a former soldier of the Black Watch Battalion and had served 3 years in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. Smart and well-read, Sandy had joined the army as he wanted to pursue a career in engineering. After leaving the armed forces, Sandy moved into a remote cottage on a farm in Boar Hills with his only sibling, his brother James. Sandy loved the country. He enjoyed driving his motorcycle through the quiet lanes and going on long-distance runs through the scenic terrain. Settling back into civilian life, Sandy found a job as a labourer at Guardbridge Paper Mill, where he was described as a good worker. Sandy was a quiet man who enjoyed his own company. He is described by some as solitary and reclusive. The only other people in his life, other than his brother, were his parents. He was particularly close with his mother, Effie, supporting her in the care of his father, who suffered with Alzheimer's disease. Sandy opted to live a simple, predictable, carefree life and was known to be steady, dependable and conscientious. Sandy Drummond wasn't known to police and he had no known enemies. At around 8 p.m. on Monday, June 24th, 1991, an elderly local man taking an evening stroll through Boar Hills discovered the dead body of Sandy Drummond. Sandy was found face down on the farmer's track that led to his cottage, just 200 feet from his front door. Sandy's body bore no outward sign of injury or violence. It was assumed by police that Sandy had died of natural causes and, as his arms were positioned under his body, he'd likely died clutching his stomach or chest. Sandy's body was removed from the scene. There would be no forensics and no investigation. This, police thought, was an open and shut case. It wouldn't be until months later that an autopsy was permitted and a pathologist would carry out an examination. From this, it was concluded that Sandy had been murdered and that his cause of death was asphyxiation. As the pathologist found no outward physical marks to Sandy's neck, he suggested that Sandy may have been killed with the use of a jiu-jitsu stranglehold. An example of this type of hold is shown on screen now. The pathologist believed that this form of strangulation, which requires limited use of the hands, would account for the lack of handprints, ligature marks or scratches commonly found on victims of strangulation. As there was no early examination of the body, it was impossible to establish a possible time of death. Fife Constabulary would immediately launch a murder investigation. Police returned to the scene of the crime, but by then all evidentiary value, if there were any to be found at all, had been lost. The location was outdoors in a country lane and months had passed by. The usual steps of searching the area, conducting door-to-door inquiries and appealing locally for information were taken. In their attempts to piece together the hours and days leading up to Sandy's murder, Fife police would uncover troubling stories of drastic changes in his behaviour. Effie, Sandy's mother, revealed to police that her son had become worried and anxious in the weeks and months before his murder. Effie would claim that Sandy was being, quote, hounded at work, and that life had become intolerable for him since his transfer from one department at the paper mill to another. According to Effie, even after Sandy was transferred back to his former department, the issues didn't go away. Sandy didn't, however, tell his mother specifically what had been happening at work. The last time she saw her son was the day before his murder when he joined his parents for lunch at their home. Sandy had been due to return to his parents' house the following night for dinner. Sandy waved to his mother as he took off on his motorcycle. Every employee at Guardbridge Paper Mill was questioned by police. Sandy's manager would inform them that on Thursday, June 20th, just days before his murder, Sandy had quit his job and said that he wouldn't be serving his notice period. Sandy had been a solid employee at the mill for more than 7 years. It doesn't seem that Fife police uncovered anything more at Guardbridge Mill. James, Sandy's brother, was also questioned by police. James divulged that Sandy had only told him that he'd quit his job on the night before the murder. At the same time, James claims that Sandy also told him that he was thinking about going away on his bike for a period of time. James was also aware of the changes in his brother's behaviour and that he'd been facing issues at work. James would state that his brother had been having problems with two people in particular at the mill. Specific details of the problems Sandy was having with these people, or who these people are, is unknown. The last time James saw his brother was just before 7:30 on the morning of his murder. The pair said goodbye to each other as James left for work. Police were unable to trace anyone else in Sandy's life that he may have confided in. A review of Sandy's financial transactions showed a bizarre flurry of cash withdrawals in the days before his murder. Sandy had withdrawn over £700, a large chunk of his savings, across numerous bank branches in the nearby town of St Andrews. After visiting these branches, police were able to obtain CCTV footage. The footage showed Sandy making the withdrawals and stuffing the cash into a hold-all bag. There were numerous confirmed and unconfirmed sightings of Sandy on the day of his murder. The first confirmed sighting came just minutes after his brother had left for work in the morning. Sandy was witnessed running out of the house and across the road to the fields opposite carrying a blue sports bag. He was then seen pushing the bag through a gap in a fence and following in after it. Later searchers would turn up no sign of this bag. We do know, however, that the bag did not contain the money that Sandy had withdrawn days earlier, as this was found at his home. Police used the discovery of the money to rule out the possibility of a botched robbery being the cause of Sandy's death. Unconfirmed sightings of Sandy include a man matching his description at 4 p.m. seen jogging along a road in Boar Hills, and then again in Boar Hills by a separate witness, this time walking, at 7 p.m. There were unconfirmed sightings of Sandy in the days before his murder too. First, on the Friday, when he is believed to have been witnessed speaking with a man in his late teens or early 20s in St Andrews. The second unconfirmed sighting was a man believed to potentially be Sandy walking in the direction away from a nearby beach the day before his murder. At around 2:30 p.m. on the afternoon of the murder, an unknown man was witnessed catching a bus near Sandy's cottage. The man attracted the attention of locals as he had a blood-stained handkerchief wrapped around a wound on his hand. The man is described as young and is known to have alighted the bus at Lamond Street in St Andrews. He has never been identified, and it's not known if he has any links to the case. Through their inquiries, police also became aware of multiple sightings of a distinct vehicle witnessed at various times throughout Boar Hills and parked outside Sandy's cottage both on the day of the murder and in the months before. The vehicle is described as an orange or red 4-door Morris Marina saloon with a sign in the rear window which read either child or baby on board. It's reported that the car was seen parked outside Sandy's home at 4:15 p.m. and then again at 7:15 p.m. on the day of the murder. Police conducted checks, they put up thousands of posters and appeals were made in the local press, but the vehicle was never traced. Sandy wasn't known to receive visitors and his brother had never seen the vehicle before. The lead detective in the case, Detective Potter, believes that the vehicle may have been scrapped shortly after the crime. There were reports of another vehicle in the area at around the same time as the 7:15 p.m. sighting of the red Morris Marina. Two men were witnessed jumping out of a car described as possibly being a silver Renault 5 or a Volkswagen at a bridge near where Sandy was later found. The men are claimed to have jumped over a wall and then ran in the direction of the farm track. It's unknown who these men were or if they had any involvement in the case. The Drummond family, and Effie Drummond in particular, were rocked by Sandy's murder. Effie dedicated herself to finding answers in her son's case. She would report that she began to receive strange phone calls in the aftermath of Sandy's death, and that there had been attempted break-ins at her home. There's no way of confirming if these incidents were linked in any way to Sandy's death. Thanks to Effie's persistence, the family were granted a fatal accident inquiry into Sandy's murder in 1992. The inquiry would consider all of the facts with the aim of ascertaining what caused the death. Though no explanation would emerge from the inquiry, it was revealed for the first time that the investigation believed that Sandy's body may have been moved to the location that it was discovered. Sandy's case would turn cold, though it would feature years later in a reconstruction on the BBC's Crime Watch programme, and then again in a TV Unsolved murder documentary. In 2016, Fife Police conducted a cold case review, but it's never been revealed if they gained anything new from this. Though a Scottish investigative journalist would claim that, from this review, police had identified who they believed to be responsible for the murder, and that man was dead. She also claimed that the police had only kept the case open in case any accomplices might emerge. Fife Police have never commented on this, and it's unknown if there is any validity to the woman's claims. There have been no updates in the story in over 5 years, and the bizarre case of Sandy Drummond remains unsolved. Effie Drummond passed away in 1996. James Drummond said of his mother, "From the day Sandy died, it ran my mother's life. It's probably what killed her in the end." What do you think happened to Sandy Drummond? Was his death linked to his issues at work? Was he the victim of a random crime unconnected to his strange behaviour? Was Sandy being blackmailed? Did he find himself involved, voluntarily or otherwise, in crime? Did he perhaps witness something? If you have any information in the case of Sandy Drummond, please call the police non-emergency line on 101 or Crimestoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111.